All right, guys. So first of all, we want to thank everybody for coming to the SAC's first meetup. SAC from 24 Hour. First, let's give them a big shout out for having everybody here. It's a lot of work, trust me. So we also want to thank you guys for coming out. I know we all live busy lives, but you guys make time for the things that really matter, and you guys come here to hopefully gain more of your time, right, through financial freedom in different forms of investing. We got a lot of people here that you guys should be able to network with. So don't come to the advanced meetups and hang out with the same people you showed up with, right? So you guys act like you don't know each other and go talk to other people, network. There's lenders here, there's real estate agents, there's wholesalers, there's fix and flippers, people that new builds. So anything you need here, like there is. Make that effort to leave with as many phone numbers as you can, emails, phone numbers, business cards, whatever you can. So I do want to hand over the mic to Sac. Let him introduce himself and tell you guys what we're going to be doing in tonight's roundtable that we got going on.
So thank you for everyone for coming. Purpose of this event and what we're trying to build is that village and network, that group of people that can help each other out, whether it's other investors with lenders. We got David here with title insurance, which everybody asks, why do I need title insurance? He's going to go over that for a little bit, because you always want title insurance. The second you don't get it, you're going to regret it. We got Cameron here, another investor in the area that is really experienced in how this area works. So what we're trying to do is trying to build that network. Tonight, we're going to kind of let each one of us kind of explain what we do, and then open the floor to questions from y'all. What do y'all want to hear? Do y'all have a deal that y'all are having trouble with, that y'all kind of want to talk it through? So what I do, I run the 24-hour closings branch here in Wilmington. We do real estate law, north of South Carolina, investor friendly, novations, assignments, double closes, you name it, we do it. Each one of us, if you haven't talked to us, at the end of this, come up, talk to us, grab our cards. All of us will be glad to talk to you after, even if you want to schedule having lunch. I have had lunch with Ian a couple of times. Great man. He will be glad to sit and talk to you about loans. But anyway, I'm going to hand it over to Cameron. He's going to kind of explain what he does, and we'll go down.
Hey, everybody. My name is Cameron. I'm former military, and I've been doing real estate investing since 2019. The way I got into it was through the VA loan. So zero money down, getting into investing based on primarily cash flow. Shortly after that, we figured out what wholesaling was, and we got really good at just doing off-market direct-to-seller. Through that, we've done over 60 transactions. We hold currently 10 properties. The major point of what we do now is offering creative finance offers in lieu of cash. So if anybody has those tight sellers that aren't like really wanting to get that lower offer, creative finance is really the next avenue as this day and age gets a little on. So yeah, that's all I've got.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Hexter. My company's Tar Heel State Title. We're an independent title insurance agent. We're not affiliated with a bank or a realtor. We're just independent. So we're just looking out for your interests, not a corporate interest. Title insurance, it's one of those things, if you need it and you don't have it, you're going to want it. So that's the simplest way to explain it. We do a lot with investors. We do a lot. I've been doing it for a long time. We have to answer any of your questions.
He is also an attorney in
New York. Yeah, not North Carolina. New York.
Thank you, Zach. Hey, everyone. I'm Ian Tucker, and I own a financing brokerage called Grafton Funding. And we specialize in investment real estate financing. So I do not do any form of primary residence lending. I don't do vacation homes, nothing owner occupied. just investment. Because we're a brokerage, we can lend all over the country. We have lenders everywhere. Advantages of working with a broker over a direct lender is kind of two things, really. It's options and solutions. That's kind of our tagline. It's options and solutions. So the thing a lot of people don't understand about investment real estate world, especially when it comes to DSCR loans, is unlike the conventional world, where a conventional mortgage, you could go to 10 conventional lenders and they're going to be different in terms of points and rates, but the rules and guidelines that they have to follow, they're all the same because they're all federally regulated. Whereas in the DSCR world and the hard money world, it's all private equity, so they can all do what they want. So when it comes to things like seasoning requirements, one lender might say you have to own the property for 12 months before we can refi. I've got options with no months. Some are 3 months, some are 6 months. The DSCR ratio itself, somewhat at 1.2, 1.1, 1.0, 0.75, so you can actually get it underwater. Hard money loans, a lot of people are scared of them because they've heard about predatory lending, which there is a lot of when it comes to hard money loans, especially if you're looking online. But there's a lot of honest, transparent lenders out there to work with that do amazing deals. I mean, people think hard money loans are going to be like 18% interest. I can do them at 10, which is cheaper than an SBA loan. So yeah, the thing is options and solutions. That's kind of what we pride ourselves on. As Zach said, I'm always available for lunch, coffee, beer. I live in Monkey Junction. Most of my business is here in town and around North Carolina, Texas as well, because I used to live in Texas. But yeah, I worked with like a lot of people in the room, a lot of investors in town. I know the market really well, and I'm always just available to give my time. If you're a new investor and you've no intention of buying a property for 2 years, you just need to ask questions of someone, get some advice, no problem. I'll give you as much of my time as I'll give to a guy who's got 200 properties. No problem. Thank you.
So my name is Julio Solis. I've been working with Zach here for about 2 years now, 2 years and a half. We started investing in real estate about 3 years, so 2020, June of 2020 to be exact. And now we've done almost 200 transactions. We own currently around 32 properties, and we've done a lot of crazy transactions, murder houses. So you name it, we've done it, right? We've got crazy stories. We can tell you why we need title insurance. We can tell you why we need to use attorneys. And mobile notaries that have gotten held at gunpoint, right? So like it's a crazy real estate world. And it's good to have friends like the people up here, right? Lenders, wholesalers, title companies, attorneys. So like, I know we say it a lot, but make those connections here, right? I promise you that you're going to be glad that you talk to a lender that can close pretty quick if needed, right? You know him, he's right here. So make sure you guys make those connections. Whatever questions you guys got, we own most of our properties using creative financing, too, little money down. We've bought properties that they owe 50 grand over what the property's worth, and we got great deals on them, right? So we can show you guys a little bit of everything. If you have a deal that you need help on, we can teach you how not to get screwed over, right? So we do have a few people here that have gotten screwed over because they felt like they didn't have somebody that could actually help them out, right? So if we would have talked to them, we showed them how to save that deal, how to get paid what they needed to get paid. So we got a pretty big team. I think we got roughly 15 of us right now on the team. So if you're out came with us, please raise your hand. So whatever you need from them, please talk to them, talk to me, and we're here to help you guys out. So now we do want to take questions. So please get involved. Any questions you guys had, any concerns, any deals that you guys need help on, any negotiations that you want to see what we would do, we're here to help you guys out. I think Jasmine had her first question here, so.
Well, I guess I'll start with a basic question is, how do you guys pinpoint off-market properties? How do you guys start the conversation with them? What is your first point of contact? Are certain areas different than others? If you can help me out with that, that'd be great.
So the funnest part about off market is like where to target your attention first. I think that the biggest plague that affects this industry is people go straight for 100% equity, high equity deals. And I often tell those people there's not a lot of motivation there. So my favorite part is to really stack the motivation levels with people. We have means to do that without complicating it. So let's just call it, if you have a high equity property, which is what everybody tells you to pull typically first, 90%, 100% equity, those folks know they have a lot to gain from that property. You don't find that motivation until you get high equity pre-foreclosure. They start slipping on their taxes, high equity pre-foreclosure probate. So you have 3 indicators that show you that this property has a lot of reason to possibly sell. So that first research period begins with understanding your possible avatar, as they say. The way we like to connect with them used to be cold calling. So we used to do a multi-line dialer, 12 lines at a time. We'd reach out to that person, but we've recently seen the industry change with how the carriers flag your number, blah, blah, blah. So our biggest outreach program now has been through texting. And holy smokes, has that deliverability rate been like 90%? Then we got really good with using a lot of artificial intelligence to create those messages to impact that person on the first response. So keeping it simple, deliverability rate 90%, response rate 20% on average, where anybody else in the industry is at like 13%, 15%. That first message is generally just, are you possibly the owner? They hit you with yes, why, no. Both have 2 good answers. As you can imagine, going through that sales process, you hit them with 4 questions. If they say yes, well, would you possibly consider an offer? So I guess 5 questions. What's the condition, timeline, motivation, and what's the price you'd possibly consider selling at? Do that over 1,000 times. You're going to get somebody that says, I would consider something. Where creative finance comes into place is with rising interest rates. You make that person the bank, give them a deal they can never refuse, like The Godfather, and you keep it rolling. Do that 1,000 times, 1,000 times, 1,000 times, you're going to have success. Then wholesale still presents its option because you get a deal that just needs to sell like that. We have a deal over in Leland. She has to take the 60K. She has to. I told her, don't take it. Let me be your last person. She's like, no, I'll take the 60K. ARV 140, we could offload it for like 70. You're still going to get those. But to keep it simple, we've moved away from cold calling into mass texting, and we've stayed very empathetic along that way. That's where people lose the traction on their motivated sellers. They stop being empathetic. They just throw numbers at them. Yeah?
So coming off of what he said, if you understand where your seller's coming from, you will have a better turnout. Most of the sellers in your foreclosures, attack foreclosures, they're dealing with a hard time. You get a foreclosure in your name, you're not going to buy in about 10 years. Your credit's crap. It's a horrible time. If you can put yourself in their shoes when you're talking to them and understand what they're going through, you will have a better turnout. Because in the end, real estate, yes, it's about making money. Everybody wants to make money. But you can also change people's lives. Creative finance and seller finance subject to, you're giving these people a get out of jail free card. You take it, subject to, you're paying their payments, you're building their credit. You're giving them an option to further in their life go and buy a home in the next 2 years, whereas if they get a foreclosure, they're not going to buy anything. And if they were able to, that interest rate is going to be horrible. I think Ian can attest, if you've got a foreclosure, it's going to be difficult for that. So definitely when you're talking to sellers, put yourself in their shoes. Be empathetic. You're not only going to do better on your side, making more money, but you're also going to help people and change people's lives in that aspect too. It's not just about gaining properties to yourself. I think a lot of people forget that.
So great answer, by the way. Loved it. The other thing is, and it kind of plays off what both of them said, is educate yourself, right? So if you, let's say a realtor looks at a property, a flipper goes look at a property, and a buy and hold investor goes look at a property, and I go look at this property, right? Well, the realtor, the flipper, the long-term hold, they're gonna look at it in their eyes, right? You're gonna look at it as a realtor, he's gonna look at it as a flipper, he's gonna look at it as a buy and hold. But when I go look at this property, I don't have anything. My mind is open, right? I want to know what the problem is, what problem we need to solve, and then I'm educated in 15, 20 different ways to buy this property in different ways, right? Owner finance, subject to, lease option, fix and flip, Airbnb, novation agreements. So educate yourself. So when you go into any situations, you're gonna have the upper hand in winning that competition with other investors, right? That to me has been the biggest. I would say the biggest success for our team is that we don't go into any situation with any specific numbers in mind, or hey, we're gonna buy this for a flip, or we're gonna buy this for a subject to. We go in there and figure out what the problem is, how we can solve it, and help them. Right? At the end of the day, everybody's saying that worried about the economy, right? Well, in a bad economy, there's more problems, and that's where investors get paid, for solving problems. So get educated on different ways to buy and solve problems, right? And you got the right crew up here to help you do it. So yeah. So any other questions, guys?
I would like to ask you a question about SMS text blast. Are there any specific things that you are paying attention when you are, for example, how many SMS do you send per day? For example, you have a text message and you ask the AI to rewrite it like in 10 different types. And what tool do you use? Maybe you can go a little bit deeper. And how don't you get like a blacklist of like spam type of, refused by the operator? Maybe you can give some tips about it. Raif.
I love this question because we went from 4 years of cold calling. All right. So going through the mud to figure out how to cold call effectively, I think gave us a good platform to text really well. What you immediately have to do is you have to get A2P compliant, 10 DLC compliant, whatever. I believe that there's many companies that do it well, many do it really bad. There's like one that does it great. All right. For the sake of the event, I won't mention names. All it comes down to is taking the principles of cold calling. You said, Raif? What we believe fundamentally converts the best is using a female name as the person of contact. So, hey, Raif, it's Alyssa. I know this is a little bit out of left field. I was wondering if you're possibly the owner of 123 Main Street. That's it. What that does is it helps you cut down all the minutia of wrong number, not interested, blah, 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 blah. So what we do is we take that prospect. Once they say, yes, I'm the owner, we send them one last message. Hey, I know this is really out of left field. Would you possibly consider an offer? Keep it like that. Question, question, question. If they said, yes, I'd consider an offer, over to lead management. Simple. We don't try to do the most with texting, and we're not concerned about opt-out language and blah, blah, blah. All right? Some companies are super concerned with it. The company I use is not, because they trust me and they trust what I do. At the end of the day, like you said, can I be of service to you? If I can't, I'll move the hell on. I don't care. If I can, this is what I can do. And just to caveat quickly to what you said, is through texting, it's the best median to say, well, hey, this doesn't sound like it works for me. But is it terrible to ask, would maybe payments over time work for you? You can do that 15 times an hour versus Can anybody answer how many times or how many people can be on one call? 2 people can be on one call versus you could, depending on how your output looks that day, you could be doing like 15, 20 conversations, 30 minutes or to an hour with texting. I'm pretty sure you'd love it. You just got to give it the right company. You got to do it really well. You know what I'm saying? So, no. Well, yeah, we are. Yeah. Sorry. To kind of jump the gun, we're not doing opt-out language. We're not saying, if you don't want this message, say stop. That's stupid. We're just treating it organically, and we're treating it like where the AI comes into place. We're telling it, we're taking blog posts, we're taking what company says is the no-no words. We're saying, do not show me any templates that meet this kind of criteria. And it's been spitting out crazy stuff. And then we're telling it, by the way, we live in North Carolina, and some of the words it's chosen to use is like indicative of a Bible Belt. So it's been kind of crazy. But yeah, we watch out for no-no words. But if you're very smart, you can take that first message, be just open enough to get a feedback, and then your second message, you can use whatever you want. Would you consider a cash offer? Then you can say it in your second message. So the first part is education. Second part is implementation. Third part is to make a bunch of money. You know what I'm saying? And be of service to your people.
So we take our primary is texting as well. So everything he's saying is spot on. I think what you want to do is that first message, right? Once they reply to that first message, game's on, right? You can say almost any word. I think insurance or something weird like that. It's like 1 or 2 words that they won't let you use still, but if you put an S on it, you can send whatever you want. But really good point, and I want to highlight that. There's several companies out there. I feel like we use the same one. I'll talk to them afterwards, but you don't want to use a company that makes you use an opt-out message, and I'll tell you exactly why, because that's what we were using. And when we switched companies to another company that no longer does that, we ran our old list that we ran through that and got like 15 deals through it, right? From that same exact list that we had Texas through the other provider. That just all, and the only difference was that opt-out message. But we do text around 1,200 per system, 1,200 texts a day per system. So, yes, sir. Great. No, so we're not using AI for the text, and so we're not using. I don't know if you're using a bot.
So it's not that. I really hate the watered down version of AI because it's really not that scary and it's not that deep in our company. It's just the background, like, hey, what do you think about this? So we're always using humans to analyze that message conversation. One thing that's super important to know is keywords and just watching out what language you're using, because you're really not trying to be super real estate investor-y, but it's never just leveraged to the investor, or sorry, to the AI to be the investor. My biggest advice is stay away from that for right now. Just be very human to human. And we have a new hire tomorrow. She's from Jamaica, Kingston, $2 an hour. She's just going to watch out for keywords as they come through and just be very receptive to what that person's message is on the income. But it's never AI. That technology is really not there yet. So, yeah.
Good question, though. So we do just use AI the same way he does to help you write messages. Always, like he said, you don't want to sound gimmicky, right? So don't copy and paste. They're going to know right away that it's AI, right? Because nobody talks like that anymore. Yeah, great question. Any other questions, guys?
We learned recently within the last 12 months, we're going to crush North Carolina. There's 100 counties. We did the math. There's only so many avatars of sellers that we really want. So to answer your question, it's all 100 counties of North Carolina, from Asheville to New Hanover. Can you do that with 1,200 messages? Well, not really, but 1,200 is very good. It's very good to get plenty of deals. For someone like you specifically doing, 15 deals from, a few campaigns, you don't need to jump to that higher enterprise level, but you'll be just fine at 600 a day to 1,200 a day. You'll be eating pretty well. I'm not going to constrain myself, because that's the beauty of knowing people like Ian and other folks in this business, is you can kind of do whatever works. And that's why I really am I'm a strong advocate for people wholesaling in some capacity, small or large, because sky's the limit. Not for me though. For you, but not for me. So. Well, are you in Hendersonville? If someone's in Hendersonville, I'll be their best friend, and now it's a lot easier. You know what I'm saying? That's what's the beauty of real estate, is just getting to know a lot of good buddies. They can help you out and stuff like that. But wholesaling is a primary vehicle. Well, and with the advent of the internet, it's been around here for a couple of days now. We can find out who's buying for cash, so it's not that difficult. And I'm not sure if you use like InvestorLift and things like that, but well, and then if he knows how to dispo the deals, I'll lose 50%. I don't care, but time is money. And the thing that I think people often miss the most is that these sellers are depending on us as a catalyst to solve their issue. And it's really effed up when we don't perform on that action and we lie to them or we promise them some things. So to be in 100 counties is a huge undertaking, but I'd rather make a portion of that profit to then share it with somebody else like you or whoever else is statewide to just move it. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of wholesalers miss that point. And Rodolfo and I, he's a stand-up guy. He knows exactly how the deal works, man. And he's done that a couple of times with me. And his mom is fantastic too. So JV to your heart's content. You know what I'm saying?
Great point. JV guys, we recorded yesterday, right? So who made $15,000 last month? Anybody in here? All right, so I asked you that question because we actually JV'd a sub 2 deal from somebody out of New York that got the property. Actually, it was on market. It was on market, advertised as subject through an agent. So they got it under contract. They were assigning it to me, making $15,000, and instead of me taking their assignment fee or even negotiating that down, I was like, all right, I'm gonna get it under contract for $15,000, but I do want you to know that I have the intent of wholesaling this, and are you okay with that? He's like, yeah, man, as long as I get paid, deal gets closed, I'm happy. We made an additional $15K on top of that, so the assignment fee was a total of $30,000. He walked away with $15,000. We walked away with $15,000. We're all happy, right? A lot of people are like, no, I'm not going to do this for whatever reason. My first deal, wholesale deal ever, I made $7,000 in 2 weeks. But I did everything wrong in the book, right? I don't know if that was you guys that closed it, but yeah, I mean, Harry ripped the contract in front of me, right? Because it was so bad, right? But I told you $1,000, it was proof of concept to me, super happy. But if I would have worked with somebody like him that knew exactly what they were doing, we would have made $30,000. That means he would have got 15, I would have got 15, which is way more than the 7K that I made. But at that point, I didn't know groups like this. I didn't know there was a lot of meetups. I didn't know YouTube. I didn't know any of that. So take advantage that you guys are here. Just add a quick add-on to what we're talking about. Texting's only one way to get deals, right? We get a ton of deals from other wholesalers. Working with them, we made probably anywhere between 150 to 300,000 so far from other wholesalers, and they made money as well. We also made a ton of money from on-market properties. So don't bang your head as much as you think. It's not as much as you think, right? It's just learn your market. learning what the numbers look, and also learning your buyers, right? Other wholesalers that you may not know the buyers in this area, but he might, or Adolfo might, or Maria might. So just make those connections. I promise you, connections over anything. You're gonna get so much further away. But any other questions?
How many of y'all are actually looking to buy properties and hold them, or rehab, or in general just buy? And how many of y'all are able to employ somebody to 9 to 5 look for properties? Anybody just regularly pay? Oh, anybody pay and have somebody on salary, and their only job is to go look and buy properties, or find leads? Most people can't, because that it's going to kill your profit. Like, you don't want to employ somebody just for that. But that's where people like Cameron and Julio, that's where they come in. If they can help find the deals, or I suggest come talk to both of them. Tell them what you want to have. What's your buy box? I guarantee you, either one of them will find something and reach out to you. But the thing is even if you're wholesaling or you're buying, make the partnerships of the area that you're doing work in. Whether it's Elizabeth City, Brunswick County, even in Charlotte, may not have boots on the ground, but there's decent people out there. And that's kind of why we set up our Facebook group, is to kind of have that group of people that y'all can reach out to. Like I said, network, talk to each other, because I guarantee everybody in this room here is here to help each other. Even if you're looking to buy, you're looking to you do long-term rent, DSCR loans, Ian is going to be your guy. He's going to be able to help you figure out your best avenue to structure it. Any other question?
Hello, everybody. So I'm a realtor and investor, and I think that it's really important. Nobody ever talks about title insurance. Like, it's kind of just this line item on the HUD that the attorney just picks a company, and you're like, all right, I got title insurance for $150. This is who I call if I have an issue. And usually you don't even look at it until afterwards. You're like, who did I get title insurance with? But I wanted to shout out David, because we have used him significantly. And even whenever I have a buyer client or a seller client and the buyer's got their own attorney, like, he's always been a resource for us, and a very selfless resource, knowledgeable resource for that. Just like we get creative in deals, he gets creative in solving title issues. Not all attorneys are the same. We've literally had deals where I was it was a buyer's agent or something like that, but they had already tried to convey title several times and nobody could do it. And David, I just talked to him about something and we were able to figure it out. But I am so happy that you're here, and I really do want everyone to talk to him and get his contact information, because again, your attorney may not be able to solve something, but David can, because attorneys work hand in hand with title companies. It's not just them that are doing it. So I definitely wanted to shout out David. And I don't know, maybe you can talk a little bit about the creative things that you have done to solve some title issues that maybe others have not. Yes. Well, Maria has maybe a specific question also.
Hi, David. How are you? So Miss Maria Campos Board. I'm with Campos Capital Group. We're like Ian. We do investment loans. So I wanted to ask you, I had a situation just recently. So we were about to go to the closing table, but we found out it was a wholesale deal. We found out there was a separation agreement, a wife, and she did not know what was going on. They've already been separated. The first title company we were using, they were not comfortable with it until the lady signed. Somehow we found another title company, and they said that in Gastonia, this is in Gastonia, that I'm still learning. I just moved to North Carolina, so I'm still learning the area. So I don't know the counties, but we were there, and they said that they they were able to do it because of the separation agreement. My question to you is, because I was thinking, is that even like, what if she comes back later and says, we are still married? So can you give me like, we did it, everything went great. They were like, the attorney said, as long as we have the separation agreement, we are fine in this county. And I don't know, maybe it goes by county, but can you just tell me, what if I am the wife and I come back and I say, you never got my signature?
He's probably one that underwrote.
I'm going to be very lawyerly and say it's all very fact specific. And typically, if there's only a separation agreement and it hasn't been a divorce, you're going to need that wife's signature. Now, they say you could always maybe find a title company that'll insure it. Is it correct? Maybe not. I mean, I can't say for sure. Maybe there was more information. I don't know. Yeah. But if there's not a divorce, if there's not a divorce, you're going to need that other spouse's signature. So. Yeah, the title insurance underwriter will be on the hook for it. Yeah, I mean, they may go back to their agent and sue their agent for doing something incorrectly, but you'll still have the coverage. But you'll have a headache.
And you get this, like, at least once a day, or why do we need it? It's honestly, it's not.
Unfortunately, the premiums in North Carolina are extremely low.
I'm sorry.
I mean, like, for example, you're buying, like, say $20,000 property, you're going to pay $65 for title insurance. So it's, why not get it?
Title insurance here is really cheap.
I know. I know that very well.
It's a follow-up. So the buyer, because I'm concerned about my client, the buyer will be protected.
Yeah, they'll be protected, yes.
All right, that's what matters to me.
Yeah.
The husband and the wife can deal with it later, but my buyer, okay, that's what I was concerned about. Okay.
So I got another question. What's the craziest situation you've been through on that side of the business?
Okay.
Spill the beans, spill the beans.
I worked in New York for a good while, and I worked for a big agency, and I told him the story. This happened before I started working there, but the claim was still going on when I started. And it was a vacant property in Manhattan, and when they were reviewing the title, there was a line in the tax map that no one really paid attention to. Well, the person closing the property, multi-million-dollar property, they went to the building department with their plans to build their multi-story building. Building department said, "Hey, that line there, that's the number 4 train. you can't." Yeah, the subway ran under this building, and no one was aware of it. So I think it was about $1 million claim because they had to redo their whole plans. They were able to build the building, but obviously they had to restructure it. So.
How do you not know that the subway goes straight up the road?
All they saw was a little line on the tax map. It's 30, 40 feet underground, so they missed it. And yeah, it was $1 million claim.
Getting under that question, with hurricanes around here, flood zones, do you have any title issues that you were running where you can't insure a property because of flood maps? Never been an issue here?
No. We don't look at flood maps for title insurance.
That would be homeowners insurance.
Right.
That would be a big issue. Yeah.
Here.
Come to the island.
Oh, he was just. All right.
I actually have.
Let's hear. Here's.
So I actually have a horrible title insurance story I tell everyone. I actually had a client that went through it, and it's like your prime example of why you do want title insurance.
I have other stories.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure. I had a client that he closed with another firm before we actually started working with them. It was in Matthews. He bought the property. The seller used a power of attorney, right? Everything was legit. It was all recorded correctly. Right? We looked over the documents for them. It was right. A month after they closed, the sellers came back and said, I changed my mind. I want my house back. And went to the point that they filed a lien and took them to court over it. Now, everybody here knows you can't just, like, you sell your house, you can't say, oh, I want it back, I changed my mind. It doesn't really work that way. You can offer to buy it back, but you're not just going to say, hey, I'm just taking my house back. Well, the thing is, he ended up, them filing a claim against it. So, of course, this was during COVID. Courthouses were awful. They sucked. Everything took forever. So what happened with him is, if he didn't have title insurance, that would have been him footing the bill. Yeah, they didn't have a right to ask for the property back. They didn't have a right to put a lien on the property and take them to court. But it doesn't matter. They could take them to court, and you could take anybody to court for pretty much anything and let the courts handle it. Problem is you got to hire attorneys. You got to pay court fees. It's going to get expensive. But because, he got title insurance, this title insurance covered that. Now, of course, a year goes by, the first case is done, then they filed an appeal, they go to the second one, second year gets done, he gets the property, it's his rightfully. But if he didn't have title insurance, he would have spent 30, 40 grand in legal fees out of his pocket, which kind of defeats the purpose of buying an investment property, because then in the end, you're kind of in a deficit right off the bat. So in the end, don't be like him. Get title insurance. Don't end up screwing yourself over before you even get started. Right.
I'll tell you guys a quick story that just happened to us last month actually. And this is for wholesalers too. So wholesalers need to make sure that you guys get title insurance, and it's going to avoid a big headache on your end as well. I don't know if you've ever had any buyers that complain about title insurance, but we sold a brand new build, and we actually worked with a big wholesale company out of Charlotte. I'm not going to say any names because you guys probably know them. But those guys bought a new build from somebody that would not sell. They bought it using private money capital for whatever way they set it up. And then they needed help selling that deal. So I was able to find them a buyer that wanted to live in that deal with a significant amount of down payment. They made a ton of money. We made okay money on that. But now fast forward 3 months later to a few weeks ago, and the buyer calls me and says, hey, like, you sold me this property and the sheriff just left my house. Like, she was freaking out. Like, she was crying, saying she had heart issues, like all kind of stuff. So, and the issue was that the guy that poured the concrete slab for that new build was suing the builder that sold them the house through another wholesaler, and then this buyer. So everybody got sued, going all the way up the chain, right? I think the amount was $28,000. She was freaking out. And the first thing I do was call the attorney. I don't know which attorney they ended up using. I don't think they used you guys for that one. And I don't even know what title company they used for that. It wasn't you guys? Okay, good. But yeah, so long story short, title company is flipping the bill. And I mean, what somebody pay for title insurance for $350,000? Yeah, so $700 or $800 they saved them $28,000 that they would have been on the hook for if it wasn't for that. So now the other wholesaler doesn't want the title company to pay it, because they want even though the title company has to pay it, but they want the builder to move up and step up and pay it, because right now the builder is getting off for not paying this guy any money for this concrete. But that's how title insurance works.
Okay, this is for my wholesalers, all of you here. The question that I have for you guys is, I've noticed, and Yeah, you may be able to, you may have the same situation. I don't know. I've noticed that a lot of wholesalers, and obviously I'm not talking about you guys, but some wholesalers, especially in the Philly, we do all states, but in the Philly and Maryland, I have noticed that they're overcharging their fees. It used to be 5, 10,000. Now we're at $15,000 to $20,000, which is not leaving enough room for the investors. So, like, have you guys seen that with other wholesalers? Like, we've seen an increase in that, and I think in Maryland we've noticed that it's being boycotted. Like, there's no more wholesalers in Maryland, and I heard that it's happening in South Carolina. It's starting to happen in different states. So normally, what I want to know from my perspective is, what is usually a good wholesaling? I know it depends on the property. Everything will depend, but if I see something that's $20,000, $30,000 more to me, and there's not enough for the investor, like what is usually like a good reasonable amount? And I'm not talking about just in North Carolina, where you guys seen it, like in general. So this is, I need to ask for my perspective because.
Is there anything you want to add to that or elaborate on that?
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, I see much higher than that as well.
Yeah,
but like, I mean, from a lending standpoint, most of the lenders I use don't care. You know, it makes no difference to them. Some of them might have a limit on percentage of purchase price, but most don't care. And honestly, from the wholesaler and investment standpoint, like, if a wholesaler is any good and if an investor is any good, the deal's not going to get done if there's no money in it for the investor. So if a wholesaler is trying to charge 30 grand, that leaves nothing for the investor, then they're not going to get it sold, so they're not going to get the 30 grand. So my view is, let them charge what they want and let everybody eat. That's the way I look at it, you know.
So when you do your deals, you don't look at the ARV?
No, look, of course not. Yeah, but sorry, my point is though, like, I'm just looking at the purchase price and including the wholesale price. So the purchase price for the buyer and the rehab. ARV honestly sometimes comes into it, sometimes I don't care the ARV. But I'm basing it on the total price of purchase. How does it broken down in terms of what the seller's getting and what he's getting?
Like now, have you noticed, will you do appraisal? Some of your.
Not for our money.
Okay. So then it's just based on whatever the value.
It's more so based on the asset value compared to what they're paying for it, as opposed to what's done for it.
And from our firm perspective, I can't tell you how many deals that we see that our wholesalers get under contract. We start the title, work, and it sits and nothing happens because they are trying to ask for too much. It's got to work for everybody. I had a client make an offer on a property that she was wanting to wholesale as a fix and flip. Property after everything in the area, the comps were 145. She thought she got a deal because she got it at 95,000, but it was almost a full gut. And you're talking about 75,000 have to be put in it to make it work. So my thing there is she got it under contract, tied up the seller's time, but didn't look into it as you got to make it where your end buyer is going to make some money too. And so that deal wasn't going to work because the property value is not there.
Yeah, I mean, if the wholesaler is charging too much, then they're not a very good wholesaler. That's just the way I look at it, And if I'm the buyer, and I invest myself, like I do flips. If I'm the buyer, if Cam is wholesaling a property to me, and I don't know until closing what he's getting, but I'm like, oh, that's a sweet deal. I can make money off this. And then at closing, I'm like, what the hell? Cam's making 30 grand, and now I'm not doing the deal anymore. That's not smart of me. Why is it suddenly a bad deal just because he's making 30 grand? It was a great deal to begin with. I was in it anyway. So why would I back out,
What's the big deal? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna get all the way to the closing table and you're gonna look at that number and you'll be like, all right, well, this is ridiculous. My mindset has been knowing your buyers prior to There's going to be an ebb and flow regardless. There's going to be this age-old question: how much do they make? How much they should not make? Whatever, blah blah blah. I like to run a leaner machine, know my buyers, know the deal that they want, then move accordingly. But what's the big deal? You know what I'm saying? And if that's the fact, then I'll double close. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? My rule of thumb is if I make anything over like 20,000, you never know it. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if I pay 1% transactional fees. I don't care. You'll never know it. Never had to get to that point. We made 25,000 recently, but we're closing this $25,000 deal this Friday. It's my best friend Gunner. He's like, do whatever it takes. At the same time, if I knew he wasn't going to pay 25,000, I would never show him the deal. I would never show him the percentage I'm going to make. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So I'm not going to sit there and jerk him around. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to sit there and jerk around Rodolfo's buyers or my buyers, anybody else's buyers, if it's not good for them. That all starts with how the deal is structured in the beginning. So as a wholesaler, you got to be very creative. In my opinion, you got to have 1 or 2 outlets. So I like to underwrite something as with me as the buyer ultimately, and then move accordingly. That kind of helps the assignment fee issue. And time is money. So if I'm making $100,000, what does it matter? We're in North Carolina. The only thing that does a disservice is to that seller, to that owner. They got strung on the line. They're like, oh, I'll give you $500,000 for something that's worth $200,000. It sucks. But I love them just as much as I hate them, because I come in and I go, listen, I don't know what they were doing, but would it be terrible to ask if I can market this property and I'm covered with my buyers? If I could bring you a couple of offers, would that be terrible? They go, no. So.
It's just, I just want to let everyone know, I say because a lot of my clients are on team, and they don't know any better. And I feel that sometimes unfortunately, they get taken advantage of. And, the American, the English-speaking market, they know the numbers. You can't guess anything, right?
At the same time, though, it's basic math.
It is basic.
So anybody that's taking advantage of it, almost I will always show my numbers to my buyers, but we'll always argue about aftercare, rehab, but it's basic math. You know what I'm saying? In some capacity, it's terrible, but don't talk to me unless you're ready to do a deal. That's my thing.
So, who here actually buys for rehabs? What is y'all's profit margin when y'all look at a deal? What do y'all want to make? 20%, 30? No. Okay. Okay, so if Julio brings you a deal and you look at the price that you're going to buy it and it matches and fits that, because he's did the work, he's priced it knowing that you've got to make some money too. Do you care how much he makes?
I don't care. I hope he makes more, and I pay him as much as he wants to raise the next.
So my point on that is, if you're a wholesaler, be fair. Everybody's got to make some money. It's got, and if you treat it that way, then I guarantee you're going to buy more properties from him, because he's going to price it knowing that you are going to make some money too.
And the answer to her question is that the ones that are offering too much money, they don't understand.
those are usually the newer ones that they're just wanting that quick buck. They didn't do the work to understand how the market works, build the relationships. They watched a YouTube video and said, "Hey, I want to make that quick buck." And I get it. Everybody starts there. You know, everybody's got to start somewhere, but you've got to grow past that. You've got to build those business relationships to make it work.
So good points on that. The problem with the buyers that you haven't, I say that because I know most of them, is that there's lack of education on both sides, right? On the wholesaler side and on the buyer side, right? Because I mean, I'm sure, like you said, know your buyers. If he knows it, I'm sure most of the deals that he gets under contract, he already has something in mind who's he's going to send it out to first, right? But most of the problem is that most of your buyers are brand new, right? They don't know that, hey, like instead of the $40,000 that I think I'm going to spend on this property, it's going to be $60,000 or $70,000. They don't take into account that, okay, to borrow money, it's going to cost me, $10,000 or $15,000 for the loan itself. Then I got to pay for holding costs, realtor costs, closing costs, utilities, the grass, all that, right? So they don't take into they don't count in, like, they don't look at, before we buy any flip, I want to know how many days that it's going to sit on the market. I want to know, like, we take all that into account, right? I'm okay making, so your average flipper in the US makes anywhere between $40,000 to $60,000, right? That's your average flipper. I think it's even lower. I think it's $30,000 to $60,000, somewhere in between. We're okay making $20,000, $15,000, $25,000 if I can be out in a week, 2 weeks, right? Condos, apartments, we're in and out really, really quick. If we're gonna do a full gut, we want to make $70,000 or above, right? Just because time is worth more than the money, like he said, right? If we can keep it rolling, wholesale fees, we'll do anything, because literally the time it takes us to get a contract compared to the $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 that we've done is, we do that all day long, right? So our smallest wholesale fee has been $3,000. Our biggest has been $75,000. So, and everywhere in between. Right now we do average somewhere around $25,000 to $30,000 per assignment. That's in the Charlotte region. They're a little bit bigger over there, but it's just know your market, right? And also, like, as a lender, you guys have the responsibility to tell your buyer, like, hey, dude, don't buy this, right? Because you want those long-lasting relationships, and if you sell them a crappy loan, it's gonna hurt them. But trust me, you're doing them honor. I mean, you're helping them out, right? Big time, and you'll probably end up foreclosing on them if you sell them something that's not gonna make sense. So I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. I do got a quick question for the lender on the panel. Can you tell us a little bit about delayed purchase versus no time seasoning period for refinancing? Like, sure. I don't really know the difference.
Yeah, so delayed purchase, so it kind of comes back again to the fact that with DSCR loans, sorry, I'm assuming everyone knows what a DSCR loan is. Does everyone know what a DSCR loan is? Anyone not know what a DSCR loan is? No, we're good. Okay. So it comes back to the fact that they all have different rules. So a delayed purchase is when you buy a property with cash and then you want to get your money back out of it. And some lenders will have rules on that. Most of them will say if you buy a property with cash, then for the first 6 months, so regardless of what the regular cash out seasoning requirement is, for the first 6 months, you can only get back what you've put in. Now, some of them will only give you 80% of the purchase price. So they treat it like a purchase. So 80% of the purchase price plus 80% of any rehab you've spent. Some of them will give you 100% of the total cost. So 100% of the purchase price and 100% of the rehab cost. So that's what delayed purchase is. It's how to get your money back, and it's treated like a purchase, but there are different rules of how to do it. A cash out refi, a cash out refi is whether you've bought it with cash or not, or got a loan on it. And again, as I said earlier, different rules for everybody. So, I have options for doing 75% cash out refis at current value after 1 month, whatever.
Wait, so you're saying if I buy a property for, let's say $100,000, and or let's crazy numbers, let's say the property's worth $100,000, we paid $60,000. After a month, let's say I got a loan on the $60,000, whatever, private money. After a month, I come to you and I'm like, hey, I want to refinance this property, or 2 months or 3 months down the line. Will you limit me at that $70,000 that I paid, or will you go on that current market value?
On the current market value of 100 grand, so you're getting 75 grand.
That's neat.
Yeah, again, the thing about, I keep coming back to this, the thing about DSCR loans is all these different rules that everyone has. And honestly, a lot of people that do what I do, they don't know this, to be perfectly honest with you. Like a lot of DSCR lenders, their primary business is mortgages, like home mortgages, and then they have a DSCR product. So the DSCR loan that they know is the product that their firm sells. And that firm might have very specific rules on what they offer. So then that person thinks, oh, this is how DSCR loans work, and this can't be done. And you see it all the time on Facebook and stuff. People saying, oh no, you can't do that, and it's just not true. Like, you know, again, the advantage of being a broker is I work with so many lenders and I know them all inside out. And I don't mean to throw smoke up my ass, but I really know my stuff. Like, but that's because I stay in my lane. Like I stay in my lane and I have my niche, and that's all I do. And like all day, every day, all I do is hard money loans and DSCR loans. So I know them inside out. And the key with them for anyone brokering these loans or lending these loans is to just really learn the different products that all lenders offer. And it's about having options and solutions, which I mentioned earlier. I went off a bit of a tangent, but that's what today purchases and a cash out refi.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I got a question for you. For those people that are starting their investment company, so I know you can't loan to someone who just like last week started an LLC.
Yeah, I can.
Great. So I'm sure everybody here wants to hear more and what those requirements and what's needed to get those LLCs started, because everybody knows don't buy in your personal name. You don't want anything from your actual investment business to actually attach to your personal home and your personal life. Always do work or investing in an LLC. It's just safer all the way around, and it doesn't screw your personal life. You keep business and pleasure separate. So on that, I want to let him explain.
Well, for hard money loans, pretty much every hard money lender will only lend to entities. And that's because most hard money lenders, you know, the bigger private equity groups that are essentially owned by banks do hard money loans, and those guys are kind of different. But like most hard money lenders, the ones that offer the best deals, they're private equity, they're smaller syndicate investment groups, they're private individuals. They do not want to get into consumer lending at all, because it's a quagmire of crap that you have to deal with from the federal government. Yeah, so they'll only lend to entities. When it comes to DSCR loans, some will lend only to entities, some will lend to entities and to individuals. So it's the borrower's choice what way they want to do it. I always advise to do it in the name of an entity, because you've got legal protection. The loan is not going to go in your personal credit report unless you go to default and it's reported, but the loan itself is not in your personal credit report. It's not going to report or contribute to your personal DTI if you go for a home mortgage down the line or for a car loan or whatever. So there's lots of benefit, and it gives you more options for terms, because again, not every lender will lend to individuals. So if you do it in the name of an entity, you have more options, and of course, more options means more competition, which means more pricing options. But in terms of requirements, there's not a lot. Like, to be quite honest with you, DSCR loans and hard money loans are so easy. You don't have to do a DSCR loan. For most lenders, you do not need to have any experience at all. Some may require you to have owned some sort of property, primary or investment, but most don't need any experience at all. The LLC you're borrowing in can be brand new. In fact, a lot of investors will set up a new entity for each property that they're going to buy. So it doesn't have to have any trading history or operational history or financials or anything. Credit score of borrower does come into it, for sure. Just like everything in America, credit score determines pricing. You know, min credit score will roll from 600 to 680. Lenders have different requirements for minimum credit score. Experience factors into terms for hard money loans. The more experience you have, rehabbing properties, the better LTVs you're going to get, the better rates you're going to get. When it comes to DSCR loans, it doesn't matter at all. It makes no difference what experience you have. So all these loans are based on the asset more than anything. So, you know, obviously, I never need W-2s, tax returns, proof of income. I don't care if someone's unemployed. I don't care if they're homeless, to be honest with you. As long as their credit score meets what I need and they've got the money that they need for their purchase or for whatever they're doing, that's all that matters. Other than that, it's all just based on the asset. Yeah.
You said earlier that you don't do appraisals, so how do you verify the asset's value?
So again, coming back to, I'm a broker, so it's not that I'm not doing the appraisal. Right. So a lot of hard money lenders do appraisals. I just have options for lenders that don't. So the ones that don't, they're not just like taking your numbers for what you're saying. They're obviously doing their own research, but those guys are themselves in office, looking up the property online, running their own comps. But I'm talking, this is like a 15-minute process. So they're looking at their own analysis. You know, if I look this property up on Zillow, Redfin, all these websites, what does it tell me it's worth compared to what they're buying for it, compared to what they're telling me it's worth? And then they're using their own experience in the rehab, and then they're looking at the comps for the ARV. So they're not just like, you know, taking your word for it, but they're not doing an appraisal. They're not sending anyone to your house, to the property. They're not. Correct. And like I said, a lot of hard money lenders do. And for DSCR loans, always appraisals. Like there's no way around that. Always. But yeah, I mean, 5 or 6 of the hard money lenders that I have in my book do appraisals. I just don't use those guys unless I have to, because I have options that don't.
You have to hold the property on a DSCR loan, right?
Sorry, say it again.
On a DSCR loan, you have to hold the property. That would be something you'd Airbnb or rent out.
You have to own the property?
I mean, you have to hold it. Hold it.
Well, so a DSCR loan is just a 30-year mortgage.
Okay.
Most of the time 30 years. There's other options too, but it's from the day you close, it's essentially the exact same as a regular mortgage. So most of them are 30 years. They're fully amortizing. You're paying your monthly repayment of principal, interest, taxes, insurance go to escrow. It's the exact same. It's serviced by the same companies that service mortgages. Sometimes they're sold to regular mortgage companies. It's just the only difference is how they're underwritten. So they're underwritten based on the rental value, whether it be actual rental income or potential market rental income, or if it's short-term, perhaps AirDNA projections. Some lenders require it to be leased. Some lenders, if it's a refi, let's say, some lenders require it to already be on Airbnb with historical revenue. Other lenders don't care if it's vacant. They're just doing everything based on market. And from the day you close on the property, you can do what you want, to be quite honest with you. Like you're signing an affidavit at closing that says you've no intention of occupying the property. Once you close on the loan, as long as you keep making your payments, you do what you want. You can leave it vacant, you can live in it. I mean, no one knows anything. Obviously, if you're going to refi it in the future, you're potentially creating problems for yourself, and you've signed an affidavit saying you don't intend to occupy it. But the reality is, on the ground, as long as you pay your loan, it's just like you go buy a car. As long as you keep paying your loan, it could be like squashed into a million pieces in the junkyard for all anyone knows, you know? So for someone with experience, I'm talking like 2 flips previous. I can do 90% LTV on a purchase price, 100% on rehab. Don't really care too much about ARV. Rates in the 10s on interest, obviously interest only, 6 month to 12-month term, no prepay, 2 to 3 points, maybe 1 to 3 points, depending on what we're looking at. Someone with no experience, instead of a rate in the 10s, it's in the 11s. And the LTV on purchase is like 85 instead of 90. Everything else is the same. I'm sorry? Yeah, so I'm going to get an experience spreadsheet from you. I'll be honest, some of the lenders I work with look into it, and some just take your word for it. Yeah, most of the private hard money lenders I use, like a lot of them, they're lending kind of on a hunch. Like they're just getting a feel for you. You're telling them what your experience is. They might Google that property. Oh yeah, it looks like a good job. You know, like that's what they're doing. And then
you know, if I do a loan for you with a certain lender, and then we do another one, and I go back for a second and a third, your terms are just getting better and better and better because now you're established, you know? Yeah, but I mean, I can do them for people that have done none, no problem, you know, and get pretty good terms.
I guess on that. So, and correct me if I'm wrong with anything I'm about to say, because I'm kind of like in awe still right now. So for those people that don't really understand what the no seasoning period is, especially for you wholesalers, you guys want to start holding some of those properties instead of wholesaling them, right? Obviously, be really, really careful with what you're doing. Make sure you know that they're good holds. Don't do it just to hold. Ask me how I know. But for example, let's say he gets a property at 50% of what the retail value is, and needs very, very little work. He might be able to wholesale it and make, you know, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on and that's not every deal, but on a home run deal it is, right? But instead of selling that property, he can find private money, you know, paying very little money to buy that property, hold it for a month, go to him and get him to refi him into a 30-year note. He pulls out the, you know, what the money he spent on that property and some of the equity as well. So he made some money. The best part about that he doesn't pay any taxes on that money also. So like that product to me is game changing, I think. And you don't necessarily got to be a wholesaler to find those deals. You can buy a deal from him or from me, or even on the MLS. You can negotiate right now. The way the market's shifting, we have the power, guys. We have more contracts and we know what to do with right now because of the way everything's working out. So that's why it's so important to know people like him, Maria, you know, attorneys, title companies, because they're the guys that are going to help you make money right now. So I'm telling you, we need to wrap it up soon, but before you go, make sure you got everybody's number in here. Make sure you guys are doing, give yourself a goal too, right? Don't just leave here and say that was a good time, right? Make sure you leave here with an intention, right? Make sure, hey, I want to get a deal within the next month, or within 2 months, 3 months. I want to set text and platforms within the next month. If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there, right? So make it go, then make a game plan how to get there. Now, Zach, you want to in the night, man?
Yeah, so like you said, come talk to us, get our cards. Every single person here is willing to pick up the phone and talk or get lunch or whatever after this. You know, we're all here to help, because if y'all win, we win. Everybody wins. You know, definitely go talk to Ian about DSCR loans. You know, has anybody here looked into rental properties here? Which options are to rent a house here? There's not many options, not for the amount of people that's moving here. So yeah, that right there alone, because you have Brunswick County growing so fast and being one of the fastest growing counties on the Eastern Seaboard, right there is a safe bet. Get a DSCR loan, rent it out. It would be easy return. You know, I am positive Ian will be able to talk and help you out on that. But yeah, you know, we're going to close up everything, but you know, come up, talk to us, get our cards. You know, we'll be glad to help you all in the future. We appreciate everybody coming. Thank you, Julio, Ian, David, Cameron, for being a part of that. Y'all have a good evening.